Welcome to the Love Pod, where inspiration, vision, and real connection come alive. Wherever you are, you belong here.
Welcome to the Love Pod, everyone. I'm your host, Nathaniel. I'm so pleased to welcome our special guest, Dr. Brett Hill, today, who is a founder of YourPostureProgram.com and Experience Life Chiropractic. Not only are you a chiropractor, Dr. Hill, you're also an entrepreneur and you're a speaker, and you really are focusing on how we look at posture and redefining how important that is. I understand you've helped tons of people and you've had some transformative impacts yourself as an entrepreneur. I'm really looking forward to talking about this. I think it's a really important subject. So many people are looking at how to be healthier, especially in a day where we're sitting more, we're needing more connection to the land and to nature. And so, welcome to the show. I'd love to just welcome you to introduce yourself and tell us more about what is this passion behind what you do.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be here. And one of the things that maybe I didn't share in my bio is first and foremost, I am a husband and father of four kids, and we one of the best things. I mean, we live here by the mountains in Calgary, Alberta area, and so I love being outside. I love backpacking, fly fishing, doing those kinds of things, and that's
Beautiful.
some of the best time with my family. So that's one of the big reasons, why called the clinic Experience Life. I've always had this passion and idea of people getting out and doing more than just sitting at a desk on a computer
Mhm.
and really connecting with bigger things and bigger things in life that to me those are the memories we have. Those are the important things that we hold with us. And I find I hear too many times people say, "Oh, I'm just getting older. That I can't do that anymore. I can't do this, and all that don't heal as well." And that's not true. It doesn't have to be that way. And
Mm.
a lot of times the chronic problems that I would see continually early on in my practice led me to develop this posture program because it
Mm.
ultimately really looked at what is the root cause here, rather than just have someone come in, get an adjustment, get out. I didn't want to do that system, and creating a way to change people's activation of their nervous system so that they make a long-standing change and empower themselves to heal. That's where this program came about. And it
Mm.
really looked at the root of a lot of people's problems, which inadvertently came into their posture system. And it shows up in the window of their posture, but it really affects their headaches and migraines, their dizziness and vertigo, their plantar fasciitis and low back problems, their hip issues, and like all of these things we can see in the way their body's adapted in their posture. And so we created this to take them back to the framework of how do we build this foundation from the ground up so that they're empowered to go and experience life and enjoy the things they should.
I really love that. And I love you brought in the fact that you're a father, four children. That's amazing. Our little girl just turned two yesterday.
Awesome.
And it's just amazing to watch them grow and develop. And I can understand too how, speaking of sitting at desks and being in front of computers, a lot of the habits that we are exposed to in this modern era, I'd imagine is leading to some of these postural changes, especially people with their smartphones looking down and all this stuff. I love that you have that, passion to help people connect with, an ability to heal and to be connected to their bodies and to experience life in a more wholesome way. And speaking of migraines and Calgary, I am born in Calgary, and I experience a lot of migraines from the Chinooks out there. We're
Mhm.
currently in Ontario, but I remember my parents actually took me to chiropractors. They took me to like laser therapy specialists, acupuncturists to try to figure out what was going on, and those pressure changes really affected me out there. So I really appreciate it. I'd like maybe just to offer you to kind of give your paradigm, and if you have any tips for to help people now, and to maybe start bringing more conscious awareness to the various areas that posture can affect their life, like these things.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And maybe we should chat after a little bit about those migraines because we do some specific things and what we look
Okay,
at because
love to.
that's one of the big focuses I have is migraines for people. But a big reason for that actually is because growing up, my mom had a lot of migraines, a lot
Mm,
of other health issues and things where it was just like, okay, try this drug and try this pill and this thing. And for these chronic issues, it was just masking the issues and it would lead to other problems. And so that's what drew me to go to chiropractic school in the first place. So
Interesting.
anyways, have a big passion for that. But I think what's important here, you mentioned, you kind of hit it right off the bat of, we're probably seeing more of this and we're just adapting to our habits of sitting at a computer, looking down at a screen. That is one of the biggest things. I mean, more than ever, we think we're more efficient with our time and healthier because we have these reminders on our phone to get up and move and things. Most of the time, if you're like me or others, we get that reminder, but we don't have time to look at that because we got to get this done, or we got to focus and we got to go to the
Mm,
next message. And we're constantly looking down at our phones, even when we're walking around and moving, we're still looking down. And that really builds these habits. And what it is neuroplastic changes that happen. So
mm,
whatever we tell our brain to do by our movements, our whatever we're acting on, our brain's going to get really good at doing that. So if all day we're sitting at the computer plugging away, or we're using our phones, we're driving in the car, our body gets really good at adapting to that without the use of the other postural things. So posture, I think it's important to understand, well, what is actual posture and what is it not? If we can just step back for a bit, because a lot of people think if I just pull my shoulders back, then I'm gonna fix this.
mm-hmm,
Oh yeah, I got to have better posture. So I'll just sit up straight, and they look up and they pull the shoulders. Well, why they're doing that movement is because they're moving these big mover muscles, so conscious muscles, to try to induce where their body has collapsed. So they think shoulders are forwards, I just pull them back.
mm-hmm,
But that's not really how it progresses. And so that's not fixing our posture. Our posture is our unconscious control
mm,
of where our body is in space to resist gravity. So
mm,
how does it resist that gravity? Now, when we're sitting in a chair, a lot of times the chair does the work for us. And so it's easier to slouch and it's easier to come into the screen because that's where our visual system is drawn to. And all the input to our brain is focused on this is what's important. So we end up collapsing. But what happens? And so those that see me, great. Those that can't, I'll try to describe it. But what happens is our head slowly um, drops forward. These muscles at the base of our spine start to tighten up because we still want to look straight
mm,
ahead. It's
mm,
actually called a writing reflex. So as a child, one of the first things we do is we have tummy time. That's a really important aspect for development. Well, they lift their head up because they want to keep their eyes level with the horizon. It's just a
mm,
natural reflex that we maintain. And so as our head goes forward, we tighten these muscles,
mm,
but our center of gravity now shifts with our ear canals and other things to where we drop our hips forward. So our hips will go forward, our shoulders will start to round, and we'll get really tight at the top of our neck there. And there's other patterns that can happen, but that's the biggest thing we see in general. And so when people try to just fix that, they look up with their head
mm,
because they've already tightened these muscles and then
mm,
compensated. They pull their shoulders back, but in reality, we have to focus back on the head position. The whole body will follow the head. So we see a lot of lower back issues where if they really want to fix that, you have to fix where your head position is because it's collapsing in that lower back and that disc at the L4-5 because of weakness there, because it's trying to compensate for your head position, which is
mm,
your posture collapse there. And so this is a lot of times missed in the whole unconscious nervous system because when I turn my head to the right, my lower back muscles or my whole spinal muscles activate to keep me from falling over to that side. It's just unconscious naturally firing in our body without us thinking about it.
mm,
And that's the secret sauce of what we do in our program and how we get people to get control of it on their own is we help connect them to subtle movements that it's not like going to the gym and just doing angel exercises or Superman's where you're trying to build up big strength. That's using your big back muscles. We're trying to fire small muscles along the spine
okay.
that align things for a long period of time. And so as what we developed, we found initially um, people we would actually progress them too fast because I'm big on results as fast as possible, but they were missing some of these little things and building these small habits. So we start with just one exercise to start, and it just deals with getting head strength and control.
Okay.
And so we actually offer, if any of your listeners are interested and want to get started, 5 minutes a day, start with these three exercises I'm going to go over. And the first one deals with the head position. We call it posture number one because there's
Okay.
four progressions with it. Now, you'll see in the video, those that go and download them for free, we have someone laying face down and they're lengthening their head and bringing it back.
Mm,
But we can also use the same kind of movements when we're standing. Now, a lot of people, I see this every day constantly. People are like, yeah, I was told to do this, and they
hmm.
just are told to
Yeah.
tuck their chin
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
push back. If you do that and your posture is poor, that actually feels really uncomfortable. You're
Hmm.
going to get a lot of tension at the top of the shoulders and in the neck because that's not actually how our posture doesn't just go from back to now just straight forward. It
Yeah.
drops in this pattern.
Okay.
So what we need to do is we need to think of a almost like a J. So from the chin through the ear to the back of the head, pulling up. So we want to
Okay.
lengthen the back of the neck, pull up, and then bring the head back so that it'll naturally lift our chest a little bit
Yeah,
and
I feel
allow
that.
us to then relax the shoulders. So this is where the other aspect comes in is most people will do it, but they lift with their whole body and whole chest.
Mm,
If you just focus through the head, you can then relax your shoulders
mm.
and you can feel your spine holding tall without just trying to think I've got to go just back.
Yeah.
There is that component, but you have to lift long through the head. And so what I would say for your listeners right now, and this goes into one of the second exercises we give, is a simple thing called balance. So if people go to the wall and they just line up their hips, their shoulder, and their head to that wall, if you can easily stand, and your feet can be a couple inches off, um, but if you can easily line that up and you're not tilting your head up, you're not trying to pull your shoulders back to feel that, then you may have okay positioning. If you're finding it struggle where you have to tilt so that you're looking down your nose. So if I drew a line from my ear through my eyes, would it be parallel with the ground or would it be pointed up?
Mm,
Because a lot of times when people go against that wall, they're tilting up and then they're pulling their shoulders back. So that wall is to give you a sense of where you're at.
okay.
And so I want you to think of pulling long with the head, tucking that chin a bit at the top so that your head can be flat against the wall, but your eye is looking level, not looking down your nose. And then lightly push your belly button in, keep your hips down, and just balance. So this is
Okay.
the second thing that's simple for people to do anywhere. Doesn't take long, but if they just balance, it's going to activate better awareness
Hmm.
of their posture. As we age, that's one of the biggest um, problems with people's health and risk of death is falling.
Mm,
And it's because we don't use that balance system, which is really tied in with our posture system.
mm.
And so that's the second thing that we get people starting off with is balance.
Okay.
And then the third deals with their pelvic tilt. And so it's just about using some small muscles below our belly button to think of lifting tall and pushing the belly button to the spine. It's
Okay.
a little hard to describe all of these
Yeah.
just over a call, but again, if they go to those videos, you'll
Okay.
see how we walk you through just some simple things. And like I said, start with 5 minutes a day can make a big difference in trying to get awareness and build these habits. Um,
That's
was
amazing.
that helpful or
Yeah,
did that make
super
sense?
helpful. It does make sense to me. It actually reminds me a lot. I found this book. I'm a bit of a book magnet, and I'm very interested in holistic health. So my background's in Indigenous wellness. So looking at the body and its relationship with the land, and like I mean, I became very interested in like earthing, this idea of connecting our electromagnetic fields. But what you're talking about reminds me of a few professionals that I've encountered and a few different resources that I'd like to kind of synthesize myself. But one book in particular that you remind me of is called Original Strength, and it is about learning the movements of like a baby. So we were talking about head control. That's the first thing that a baby learns. And in that book they talk about the importance of the vestibular system and how we don't really exercise our balance very much. So I mean, most people don't even know what their vestibular system is. But I think what I'm hearing, Dr. Hill, is really bringing more awareness to the body, and having um, greater awareness. I don't know if that's referred to as like proprioception, knowing where the body is in space.
Yeah.
I also I have questions around the fascia, as I feel like the fascia is so fascinating to me because it seems like it's the biggest organ that connects all of our joints and our nerves and everything. And I wonder, like I've heard a few different perspectives of fascia that not only can like our tensions be held in our tissues from like micro traumas and all this, but that literally the fascia kind of holds us. The way it was described to me is like if we're leaning forward and hunched over, the fascia is doing this work of service to like build all this crystalline structure to help support us that way. But it actually, it needs to be kind of opened back up over time, and it's not something that you can do from, like you said, activating the big muscles, but really um, opening that slow and connecting the breath and allowing us to relax more into these like natural postures that our body would be. So I'm just curious because you said you like fast results. What are some of the transformations you've seen, and is it related to our ability to like relax into this like optimal feeling of being supported by gravity and allowing the body to naturally be? Is that like the fastest path, or what would you say?
Wow, you're hitting all the right points, and I would agree with everything you've just said. I mean, uh, again, it's kind of this simple use it or lose it principle. Um,
Mm,
as a child, I encourage kids, walk on that curb on the edge because you work that balance system. Go to that playground and just challenge yourself in different ways, and we get that vestibular system or this balance or sense of where our body is. Well, as we get older, we go to school and we sit, and then we go to university and we're sitting even more and cramming, and then we go and we do a workout. But a lot of times these workouts, we sit at a bench, we sit in a machine, and
mm,
we work our upper body or our legs, but our core foundational system is still not having to fire or work. And so we might think we're getting good exercise, but in reality, we're still letting our body cheat, letting
mm,
it collapse, and we're not getting it that balance activation. How many times do we go and challenge our balance system? We don't have to very much anymore. We're not riding horses very often. We're not walking near as much to get where we want to be, and so we don't use it, and so we lose that awareness,
mm,
and we can't connect to the brain, the body to the brain as well. Um,
mm,
and so that's a huge thing about correcting this. And the fastest way possible is not going and pushing yourself to build a ton of muscle to fix your posture. And it relates a lot to that fascial system in just being because just like anything or muscle system, that fascial system's adapting to tense and hold us up in ways where we're overworking our shoulders typically and other areas, our hip flexors and hamstrings way more. So we get an overactivation and an over shortening of that fascia while we get a lengthening or underactivation of other areas, movement patterns in the body. And you're right, we need to, in a sense, connect our brain to the body to relax into it so that we don't use the big muscles, but
mm,
we feel the natural system start to hold us up. Now, the problem with that is once we've adapted these neural connections, so every time we do a movement, whether it be sitting and looking at a computer or or shooting a hockey stick or a basketball, our brain is building neural connections
mm.
in that pattern, and it maps it up in our motor cortex
Okay.
and other reticular systems. So the more we do it, the more it becomes automatic. As a child, the more they learn to grab that fork and then eat, the more that becomes coordinated, the more that becomes automatic. They don't have to think about it, look at the fork, they just do it. Same thing with a sport, same thing with anything. So the more we sit at a computer, the more it becomes automatic. And these neural connections that happen, they just fire like super quick, super easy. So to just then say, oh, I'm just going to relax into
Mm,
this, well, we've
mhm,
compensated to where what our body knows as normal is completely different than what it used to be 10 years ago or whatever before we started doing that pattern of movement or lack of movement, usually. And so that's why it's so difficult for
mm,
people to actually correct this by just going to the gym. Or I hear all the time, yeah, they're working on my posture. I'm like, oh, what are they doing? Yeah, we're doing this exercise and that exercise. I'm like, yeah, you're working all the mover muscles. None of that's related to your unconscious postural muscles because you're just compensating. You're trying to get the movement by moving more with the shoulders, moving more with your abdominals, when in reality, it's because you've compensated and can't activate those other areas properly. So when you feel it, it actually becomes easier
Mm.
and you're using less muscles, but you kind of get this lock into place feeling of like, oh, I feel that kind of lining up. Where if you like stack Lego blocks and you've got them off kiltered and off centered, you can tell, okay, it might be a little bit wobbly once it gets high enough. But if you stack them all nice and in the right alignment, it's the same, or it's much more sturdy. And then the same thing, you know, when we try to work on balance and we try to get them aware, we want the ankle, the knee, the hip, the shoulder, and the ear to be all lined up as close as possible, but we want the body to relax. We want them to really dissociate the shoulders from holding them up from these small spinal muscles. And when they feel that, and they feel that um, uh, alignment, it just becomes much easier. Most people, when they first try to correct their posture, they think they're all aligned. And what ends up happening, they're leaning way back in the shoulders, their hips are far forward. And when I actually correct them up and I push their chest forward, I pull their head back and I bring their hips in alignment, they think they're sticking their butt out, or
Mm.
they think they're like, head is way back. And I'll
Interesting.
take a picture and they'll be like, wow, like I feel so robotic. I feel so weird in that position. But it's because where their normal is, their body thinks, oh, we're way far back, when in reality, it actually is lining them up. So
Mm.
that disconnect, or that proprioception, which is basically where's my body in space, when it's changed to a new normal, it's not as easy to know where it should be. It actually
Mm.
feels off for people. And that's
Interesting.
where we guide them through weekly in video calls or in person in the clinic. So if we're doing it online, that's really important. A lot of people can find videos to be like, oh yeah, this is going to strengthen my posture. Oh, this will fix your posture, but they will still have the compensatory patterns, which is why we design this in a way. We still want to meet with people once a week to correct them out of that, so they can then feel, oh, I feel if I just move a little bit differently, I see how that activates that muscle. And I don't have to work so hard in the shoulders or in the hips or whatever it is. So that's
Okay.
part of the secret sauce of our program.
That makes sense. And like that kind of entrainment to have go through training to help navigate that. You know, it reminds me as you're talking about like from an entrepreneurial perspective, when you're doing the right thing, it can feel like you're going into some discomfort because it's like, you know, like if you're learning about marketing or sales, like we've been told our whole life, you shouldn't make any sound. And here you are, you have to be like, look at me, I'm selling
Mm.
something. You know, it's like
Yeah.
we're out of like that normalcy. No, I appreciate your perspective. And I feel like so much of this, like in you talked a little bit about in your bio how this when you do realign your posture to its natural position, like that can affect every area of your life in terms of like creativity and just a sense of well-being. Does it help too with like you know, there's a lot of talk about like heart brain coherence. Because I'm wondering what the question came up for me is like, are people out of alignment? Like, is the root problem because we're too much in chronic stress? We're in, you know, high beta a lot of the time. People are, you know, tense because they're not even realizing that they're in like a state of fear because they're being exposed, bombarded to all this information that is not really how we're built as human beings. Like we're the only species that like pays to live and doesn't have its food, you know, growing around us all the time. So we're in a weird dichotomy as a species. What do you think are some of the root causes of why people's posture is off?
Yeah. Well,
Big
you
questions.
it's a really good question. And I think for a second on how to answer it, because it's more than just one thing. Like we do have lots of these stressors that affect our body. And a lot of us think of it in, oh yeah, my work is stressful, my financials are stressful, or my relationship is stressful, or yeah, my kids are stressful, whatever that stressor, or usually it's a multitude. We all have a multitude of stress. And we see that as, well, if I just didn't have that, then my posture would be good, or my health would be good, or I'd feel good.
Mm,
When in reality, we have to have stress. We have to have stress on our posture, meaning gravity. If gravity wasn't on us, we wouldn't have posture. We wouldn't have the strength to hold us up because we
mm,
wouldn't have that stress on us. If we didn't have the stress of these things, we wouldn't adapt. We wouldn't be able to come to solutions that help us to grow and become
mm,
something better and see different perspectives.
mm,
Um, how posture comes into that, there's actually a really close correlation between stress that we perceive mentally or emotionally, as well as how it's portrayed or how we feel it physically. And I say that in a sense of, if you get if you have a lot of stress going on, some people might be like this. They might say they got some bad news, and you can just see it in the way they hold their body.
Hmm.
Or, we react physically when that mental stressor is there.
Hmm.
Why is that? It is because we have these neural connections that are directly associated with how we hold our physical body.
Hmm.
But what we always try to say is, well, I've got to deal with that stress, whatever that might be. I've got to just work harder to make more money. I've got to go to counseling to deal with that issue. But what if we also focused and recognized the power of changing that physical aspect? Because what most people are doing is they're putting their body in this position day after day, looking at their phone, looking at the computer, this slouched position, which basically tells our brain, oh, we're sad, or we're depressed, or we tighten up because we're working on that computer. Oh, we must be stressed. So we are telling our brain that it should be this because of how we
Hmm.
physically are holding our body day in, day out.
Yeah.
And again, our brain will do whatever we tell it. So if we're telling it by how we hold our physical body, it's going to perceive that more often, versus when we're up and moving, not looking down at phones, out in nature, out
Yeah.
and moving our bodies, experience things. Um, it is getting a whole different input as to how we emotionally or mentally are feeling about ourselves as well, and the environment around us. And so I tell people, as an entrepreneur, or say a speaker, a lot of these classes or instructors teach that, okay, when you're going on stage, you want to have your superhero posture, Superman posture. Why is that? Because
Hmm.
you want to look confident. You want to look like you've got energy. You want to look pleasing to people and excited. So they see that. What if that was just who we are? What if that
Yeah.
was just how we held ourselves?
Hmm.
That was what I feel all the time, or what I want to
Yeah.
present all the time. So as I stand here doing this, I'm using a standing desk. In fact, you can't,
Nice.
I'm balancing half the time. I'll balance, and I'll do some hip abduction things, and just keep my
Hmm.
my posture firing.
Yeah.
But it's not just a one-time thing that you do. Oh, here's your 10-minute
Right.
exercise, and then go and sit all day, you'll be good. It's about changing the habits of how we want to feel and think about ourselves
Hmm.
by how we are moving in our day-to-day life.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of what you said reminds me of, it is in a sense taking on a new identity when you hold yourself in a different way. Reminds me of Tony Robbins' work as well. He talks about like changing your physiology as one of the triads that if you just change your physiology, you do feel different. And then if you change your focus, and then you also change your language and the meaning you give things, well, all of a sudden you're in a different state entirely. But I agree with you, and I notice this too. Like we have these tendencies. I mean, I've healed myself naturally from my own depression, dealing with like bullying at different levels of my life, and realizing like how I was moving and how I was holding my body had a lot to do with how I felt. And if I just went for a walk and did some like contralateral movements, and then even vocalizing or allowing myself to sing or being mindful of the words I use, like everything just changes. But I feel like that key, like I feel like even if I changed my language and even my focus, but if I still kept a downward posture, my body is sensing that it's depressed, like it's shrinking itself. And I feel like without changing that on a fundamental level, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to really shift. So I love what you say. It's like it's about a whole lifestyle change rather than just practicing these movements. Like, and I feel like we live in this time. I feel like there's a shift away from it. What we've been like conditioned to compartmentalize our life. You go to school, you're this person. You go to work, you're this person. You're at home, you're this person. Instead of just being in community together, like many indigenous peoples would have been, like you're always around these people and you're always getting that feedback. So you don't have these it's not exhausting. You can just be yourself because you're not putting on a face at work because, you can't talk about the stresses that are going on at home and all the ways that we compartmentalize. So I love how you talk about that as being this, like literally a different change of lifestyle. So I really value the importance of having like mentorship and coaching. Like you said, you can't always see, like we can't see I like the analogy, a jar can't see its own label. And literally, when working with folks, you help them see themselves from that objective professional stance, so you can help them make those corrections and micro corrections. So what does it look like for someone who's interested in doing this work of like postural development and helping that with you, Dr. Hill?
Well, yeah, thanks for asking. And I do have to say, I've been on different podcasts, and your posture is pretty good. So
Thank you.
you're doing a
Appreciate
good
it.
job, and it shows. It shows in your energy, and yeah, and so I appreciate you sharing those things. One of the things that is really important, and you mentioned people getting that awareness and then helping, them see what's really going on. That's the first thing we need to do. We have
Yeah.
a consultation with people, and we do just as if you were to come in the office and we do an exam with you online, we would go through, okay, what's going on here? What are some issues? What is your goals? And we can do an assessment where people download an app, they connect to our clinic where they just have someone take a picture from the front,
Hmm.
the side, and a lot of times we can get some video of how they do a squat or other movements and test balance. But those two things alone, just doing a picture from the front and the side, they'll connect with our clinic and we'll put in these dots on the pictures and give us analysis. It'll give us an analysis of where they're at. And that can be very telling. That can be really informative for people where all the time everybody's like, oh yeah, my posture's not great. But when we show them and we show them, hey, your shoulder's actually quite tilted, and they're like, man, I didn't realize, like, I didn't know that. I mean, it's obvious. It's like, how did you not? But they've just adapted to that.
Hmm.
And we show them where they're at, and they're like, man, I put them in a position, and they're like, that is really weird feeling. So that awareness is one of the first steps that we give them. And then from there, that's helpful to see if they're actually a good candidate for a program, because then we can screen through if they have other underlying health issues or things that we need to address first. But then what we'll do is we'll go through this program where they're going to get all the videos to the exercises, and they'll get access to our portal where they can communicate with us on questions they might have, or in the community of anybody doing it. And we take them through each week. They're going to have a series of different exercise things they can do. And we also want to give them tips. We want to share about, okay, so talk to me about your work space or this or that. And so that we can get them to incorporate, okay, when you're watching your kid's hockey game, I want you to just do this while you're sitting there
Hmm.
3 times just to get that activation and remind your brain what those muscles feel like. And so once a week, we'll meet with them, and then we'll introduce the next week exercise. So we start with just the head, then we work on the core, then we work on the shoulders, then we work on coordinating it all. Then we work on, we call it advanced coordination, and then building strength and power through that. So each week, we're tweaking things a little bit, we're adding a little bit to it, but it's cool by like week 5, where we reeval, people are starting to feel this and get control. And they're like, man, I notice it on everybody. And I'm using this all the
Hmm.
time. And I can really feel it stronger when I go and do my workout. This doesn't replace a workout or exercise or whatever activity. It helps you be stronger with that. It helps you recognize, oh, I can really brace this. And I'm benching more, or I'm doing whatever, because they know how to stabilize their spine properly.
Hmm.
And then we reevaluate at week 5, and then at the very end we do those pictures again, and it's cool to see the trend. It's cool to see how their body is just naturally adapting. When we measure that over 10 weeks, the changes we can get is actually pretty quick, because they're focused on it, but they're just using these little changes throughout their day in little tiny bits. And I have yet to have somebody who has actively, like, done the exercises as we've recommended and not improved amazingly,
Hmm.
like, and seen really cool changes and results.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it gets to that core strength. People say, oh, I
Yeah.
need to strengthen my core. They're missing this foundational core
Yeah.
strength, because this is what we develop as a child first. We
Yeah.
have to be able to use our spine properly to then, crawl and then stand. And once we're
Yeah.
standing, there's a reason that develops first, our posture first, because
Mhm.
it fuels our brain, our frontal lobe, to be able to then adapt in our language and our
Mhm.
speech and our problem solving skills so much faster, because now we're resisting gravity on all these joints and
Mhm.
muscles that are giving constant feedback. I won't get too nerdy on all the
Interesting.
neurology of it, but it's so powerful. And there's a reason why children need to have tummy time. They need
Yeah.
to do cross crawl to develop this postural balance. And that fuels so much of the other brain
Mm.
health.
I've heard that it's actually not like there's some parents who, they pride themselves on how fast their child walked, and there's encouragement like the Jolly Jumpers, but that I can actually, like you said, I think what I'm hearing you say, that it's not optimal, like really developing that core strength from the ground up, like learning how to crawl properly, rocking and rolling, learning how to roll in different ways and activating all those subtle movements of the core is so important to be able to walk well. I really appreciate
So
your
important.
holistic approach, and also from an entrepreneurial perspective, how you've created something that can scale. Because something I've noticed with a lot of chiropractic doctors that I've met is, the business model can be almost, the bottleneck is how many people can I see in a day? And so,
Mhm.
it seemed like the solution is, oh, well, I'll just see more people, I'll adjust them more quickly, and then not give them that holistic integration that's so important for maintaining the alignment that happens between the work, right? So I appreciate that you're creating a system that people can actually use. And
Yeah.
what is your higher vision for where you'd like to see this go, Brett?
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate that. And you're not the only one. I think a lot of people have that. I get a lot come into my clinic and they're like, oh, that was a way different exam. Oh, this is different than where I've been. Yeah, we're not gonna be like, okay, come in for 1 2 minute adjustment and keep coming back forever doing the same thing, expecting it to be different. Um, yeah, when I graduated school, I wanted to do so. I had an opportunity to join that model. I'm like, no, I can help people on a bigger impact.
Hmm.
And my motto is, if I don't enjoy what I'm doing, if people become a number, then I
Yeah,
need to start doing something else.
I hear you.
And so in really looking at scaling this, and I think it was all about keeping that motto, keeping that vision of, why did I become a chiropractor? It's because I really wanted to help people experience life. I named it that way for a reason. And it's more than just, I don't want people to be a number. I don't want them to be
Mm.
like, keep them on the pill or on the adjustment forever because they're reliant on me. Now, do I still have patients who have major injuries or have chronic things that I see them once a month? Yeah, I do for sure. But in a general sense, we try to empower people where that once a month is just like going to the gym and exercising or eating healthy. They're
Hmm.
trying to take care of themselves as best as possible, but they're at a healthy, functional life.
Mm.
Um, and so the way we scale that is we work in clinic. I've taken a lot of time away to try to grow the online aspect of it to reach so many more people. So we brought in another chiro, which that in and of itself was a difficult task because I set it up different than the model that was out there, where
Mm.
again, the model is okay, you come in, we'll pay you based off of how many people you see.
Mm.
So their focus is all on numbers. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's not what I want here. So we pay them as an employee, whether they see one patient or 100 patients. Um, but I had to find the right fit. So it took me a while, but once we found that, um, training him up, and then we he can kind of run the clinic here, and we can scale through more helping people online. And then my mind is always working. So going forward in the future, I guess I'm not the best business mindset because I'm not sure if it's not at all business minded to help me in any way that I see, but I'd
Mm.
love to do a non-for-profit program to help um, families, kids with like a single parent, single mom, or a single dad,
Hmm.
um, connect in experiences that get them outside of the home, get them outside of screens,
Yeah.
where they can go backpacking for a night and
Yeah.
they can try fly fishing, because these are things that I love, that I feel are super connecting for families, and
Yeah.
cool experiences that that kids don't most don't have this opportunity to even experience, especially in a single parent home where
Mm,
you're struggling to do this or that. And so
mm,
being able to connect with them where they live so they can go and reproduce those memories
mm.
versus, hey, let's do a one-time thing that you travel to and that was a cool experience. But recreate these experiences where you're not on a screen, you're having to have a conversation with your parents or experience something that maybe you become passionate about. And we
Mm.
work with them to get healthy, to actually achieve that goal, feel that success. And then we take them on that backpacking or mountain biking or whatever it is trip so that they can connect. So those are some of the visions I have going forward.
That's
And
beautiful.
again, not sure how that's going to, entrepreneurial wise, I mean, I definitely could use some help there because I went in to help people, but
Yeah.
that's how we've scaled. And that's how, I think keeping that vision of why am I doing what I'm doing is so key and important.
Well, I think it's really beautiful, Dr. Hill, that you have that. There's something I'd actually like to share with you. Might be a very viable solution because the game is changing for entrepreneurial endeavors. I feel like past is the days where we're supposed to build in isolation, and there was this yearning collectively in our species for true community. And we launched our school community, SKOOL, in September. I was trying to do the entrepreneurial thing myself, building our website, thinking like our Late Heart Vision is really devoted to a higher vision for our world, and we believe that we can co-create what we like to call home, heaven on Mother Earth. But heaven is this understanding that we are in harmony with one another as human beings, brothers and sisters of the same life. You talk about experiencing life, and we can also live in our fullest expression, our fullest potential. And so my background in holistic health and also my direct experiences of, you know, awakening and spiritual understandings that I've gained have all kind of coalesced into this. And it was in finding school that I found all these communities interconnecting and working together to really co-creatively create a better way of life. And what's interesting about it, uh, instead of having a nonprofit model, a community model allows us to build things that are in alignment with our passions, but also thrive economically. And I feel like so for me, school has reintroduced this idea of doing in real life events or in-person real life events, IRLs. I never heard that term before I was on school. But what's interesting about all school communities is that they have a map and you can see where all your members are all over the world. So if you're traveling, going to an area, people organize events based on this. And I could totally see you doing something empowering that because it's people in these communities share their whole life. It's not just you might start a community on like I always give this example because I think it's the most hilarious. There's a guy who has a pickleball school. It's the number one kind of popular ranked on school, and he created a school. I don't know much about pickleball. Apparently, he is somewhat well known in the pickleball community or very well known. I'm not sure, but I love this example because these people are joined together in this common interests and being community, people bring their whole selves. Like, oh, people start talking about like, what'd you do have for supper? Where did you travel to? And as the founder of this community, he's making more than 30K a month every month doing this community. And there are communities who do far in excess of that as well. And I feel like we're in this time where it is possible being interconnected online where we can do what we love. We can help people, add value without extracting anything as entrepreneurs, and then have also our clients that we work with one on one and being able to serve people, but in a different way. So I'm bringing this up because like I'm an unofficial school ambassador, but listening to your vision of like wanting to empower families and especially that intergenerational connection is so important. And I can see like you're helping parents to feel better, to be more aligned with their posture. They're going to be happier because people who are in pain are unhappy. They're going to have
Mm-hmm.
better relationships with their children. You reminded me of my friend Paul. He was on the show a little bit ago, and he has an arts community all about using creativity and arts to help bridge that gap in the parenting relationship. And anyways, so I all to say is I admire your vision as an entrepreneur. I think it's important, and I see the value of what you're doing. So
I appreciate that. That's I have to learn some more about that. That might be a great avenue because yeah, I think there's so many things out there, especially with technology nowadays, to connect people and grow that where it's kind of a newer avenue for me because I'm big on one-on-one with people in
Yeah.
clinic. I can connect with them, but the online world's a different world, and so building those connections is really important.
Yeah, well, I'd love to share with you more. We can look at it offline. I've been promoting it because I feel like I'm if you would have seen me during the lockdowns, I was literally barefoot in the woods. I love to clean up the land. As crazy as that sounds, like a meditation for me. I go and pick up all the fallen limbs and things, and I like filling the pockets of where my parents live on a piece of land in the Muskokas that was
Mm.
logged probably about 150 years ago. So where all the trees were fell, like in the pockets, I fill those areas up, and then the leaves come, and I really felt just a renewed sense of connection to Mother Earth doing that. But also, I noticed my feet and my legs got so much stronger using
Mm.
all of my feet muscles, like walking on limbs and through ponds and on rocks and stuff. And I realized how far we had become removed from our natural environment. And so I never really liked being on a computer in front of things. And I felt like so drained after being on social media because school is all about authentic relationships, there's no ads on the platform or anything. I've actually really connected with people in deep ways. And I'm like, I want to share with people more about this because we believe that we can create a truly harmonious world, but it comes down to our collective consciousness. And where I see this connecting with you, Dr. Hill, is people need to feel well and at peace and ease in their body because before they're ever going to, be in a state to really do what they love. And I think like what you're saying, when you said like postures related to creativity, I'm like, oh man, Nathaniel, like that's like such an important element. So I appreciate you bringing this perspective onto the show. Is there anything more you'd like to share about that? Like how once people are aligned, like I feel like the body has such an intelligence to it. And I know you
Mhm.
appreciate this as a chiropractor because my understanding of chiropractic is you understand like you're removing the blockages to allow the body to come into its fullness and for all those, meridians and everything to do what they're meant to do. How can someone listening to this, obviously connecting with you, but what are some important steps would you say to really start listening to the body? Maybe for people who have been sitting too much, and what are some things that you like some good practices to help take those baby steps?
You betcha. And I am, I think what you just said, baby steps and little things, that's the key. Is this isn't something to be overwhelming with or to be like, well, I don't have time. It's literally a little bit here and a little bit there. These small changes really add up. Just like sitting at a computer day after day, we don't really notice the effects right away, but that builds up month after month, year after year. The same thing can happen when we are intentional about it, when we do feel it. So the simplest thing I would say is just taking a deep breath, connecting our breathing. There's a
Mm,
lot with meditation there, but when we think of our posture, and do this every 30 minutes or 45 minutes,
mm,
especially if you're working at a desk, where you take a deep breath, you think of being long through that head and pulling it back, but then the important aspect is just when you breathe out, relax your shoulders, but don't relax your whole spine, your whole
mm.
body. Keep that tall feeling, but feel the body let go of any tension and stress. And then it helps you recognize and connect a little bit to, oh, that's the posture. So that's the system that I don't have to, I shouldn't be working hard to hold. But when we try to correct it, once you've lost it, we end up working way too hard. People will pull their shoulders back, hold that for maybe 30 seconds and be
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm tired
Yeah.
because we're not using the right muscles
Mm,
and they're fatigued to the ones that we should be using. So just breathing, thinking tall, and so that string behind the head pulling up and slightly back of the shoulders or of the ears over the shoulders, and then relaxing the shoulders down. Dissociate those two, let those come in. Another thing too is breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. You know, there's a lot of things in connecting our brain and body. I connect a lot of it neurologically. It's important for filtering that air as we breathe in through the nose, and
mm.
it helps relax our jaw and let go of that stress when we breathe out through the mouth. So that's a healthy way, just simple thing of breathing. And it can be just,
Yeah.
hey, do three of them, three deep breaths, even one. Even if you just do one deep breath, it's going to help you be aware. The more you stimulate that and activate it, the brain's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can feel that a little bit. Maybe there's something there. If the brain doesn't know where the body is or how to control it or move it, it's prone for an injury. It's not going to be very efficient. So you're going to fatigue a lot faster because it's going to have to work harder to do simple tasks. And so if we have poor input to the brain, simple way to think about it. So if I don't have good awareness, I don't know, like I'm always activating in a poor posture, we're going to have a poor output.
Mm.
Kind of like you are what you eat. You put crap in your body, you're going to get crappy output. Same thing when we move or hold our body crappily, we're going to get a crappy output. So, so some simple things I would say, start with the breathing, start by balancing, just balance on that wall and be tall. Again, relax your shoulders, try to think of being as tall as you can and feel the balance system for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Most people will be able to do it eyes open a little bit. Once we close their eyes, now we're really firing the system. And so I'd encourage them to start with eyes open, then we progress to eyes closed. And that's one of the things we do in our program too.
Amazing.
But it helps them to feel the body and recognize where they're at. So, it's funny. Sometimes I'll be talking with people and I'll just balance a little bit and they won't even notice that I'll just barely lift my foot, but it just helps me to activate that when I notice that my body's kind of slouching or fatiguing or whatever it is. Or if I'm filling up my car with gas, I'm like, oh, this is a good time. I should just get that in. And so we can do these little things in our day that don't take time is to me the most important commodity. Time is something you can't buy, you can't get back. And so being intentional with that in little tiny bits and pieces can make really big dividends, really big impacts. So
That's amazing. Well, I put a note to use my Pomodoro timer to just every 25 minutes to get up, because I find when I don't use it, I can get sucked into trying to, figure out. I agree. Time is so essential in bringing more conscious moments into our day. I feel like it's such a big win for so many people. Dr. Hill, I really appreciate you coming on. I love to ask guests, if you had a megaphone and you could talk to the whole world and everyone could hear you, what message would you like to share with everyone?
well, I would say the little things you do now, that how you spend your time now will affect where you're going to be in 5 or 10 years.
Hmm.
And if you look back and you're like, I didn't get that experience in that I wanted, that was truly meaningful, whether it be with a friend, a spouse, a child, then you'll never get that back. So be intentional with that time in little bits and pieces because each and every day they do add up and they are meaningful.
Hmm.
Yeah, so value that time. I know to me it's the most important thing and we can't get it back. So don't wait until everything's just right to try to
Hmm.
get where you want to be and take care of your health or whatever it is, because usually it'll be too late. So
I really appreciate
it
that.
was, yeah.
Wise words, and I feel like that's been reflected in a lot of the that which has been captured on people with their last few breaths. They always refer to exactly what you said. So if we can be preventative and really honor the gift of life that we've been given, and I hear your heart coming from a conscious father. So thank you for being who you are, Dr. Hill. Appreciate you very much. You're certainly welcome back on the show anytime if you're launching a new system or anything, or have more to share. It's wonderful having you. And we will put in the show notes how people can reach you. Do you want to just let people know also here?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. First of all, I really appreciate it. It's, I appreciate your desire to help people as well, and really comes from a place of love. Um, the best thing, I talked about those free videos.
Hmm.
Just start there for people. So they can go on yourpostureprogram.com/videos,
Okay.
put in their name and email, and they'll get that link sent to them and they can connect with us through that. You can also send us an email from at drhill@experiencelife.ca or go to yourpostureprogram.com. But
Wonderful.
those videos is probably the best place for people to start. And Yeah, anybody that has questions or is like unsure, hey, can this help with me or what? Send me a message. Even if we have a 10-minute chat on a call, I'd be more than welcome, more than happy to see if, hey, can we help you? Is this something you need? And try to get an idea to how we can help people.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate having you on this show. And I'd just like to welcome our daughter, Luciana, to come and thank everyone for watching. So, blessings to you and your family and all those you touch. Brett, really appreciate your presence and your mission as well.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. You say ciao ciao.
Bye.
I love you so much.